This is episode number 49 of DevOps Paradox with Darren Pope and Victor Farsick. I'm Darren.
And I'm Victor.
And today we're going to jump on the COVID-19 bandwagon, sort of.
Yeah, baby.
If you're watching this live, today is March 12th, but it's actually releasing in podcast form and re-releasing in video on April 1st. No, this is not an April Fool's joke. One of the things,
It's not?
It's not. One of the things for the company we work for, we're primarily remote. I don't say fully remote because we do have some offices, and we have some people that go to offices on a very normal basis. But we're primarily remote, and I'm remote. Obviously, I'm at home today. Victor is at home in his really cool new condo. What do you guys call it? Apartment.
Yeah.
So we're all good and everything's the way it's supposed to be. But we're thinking about, okay, well, not everybody gets to have remote work. And let's go through a small list. I did a little bit of research. There's a lot of travel bans on. There are typical 14-day quarantines if you are diagnosed or suspected to have COVID-19. Now, again, this is, by the time you're watching this, if you're not watching it live, on April 1st, hopefully the curve has started flattening. And, you know, the yesterday, March 11th, WHO declared it a pandemic, all the other scary words, right? Airlines are slashing flight availability. In fact, the President of the United States last night has now, starting tomorrow, banned all travel to Europe for however long.
I cannot come and visit anymore.
Well, not for, was it 2 weeks, 3 weeks? I haven't really. It came on right before I went to bed, so I was like, okay, I don't know. But let's talk about canceled events. South by Southwest, canceled. KubeCon has been rescheduled.
I mean, that's okay.
Right. So
well,
no, that does matter because they're pushing it forward. I'm talking about truly canceled until the next year.
Yes.
E3 canceled. F8 canceled a little bit of streaming. Google Next canceled, but going to do full streaming. Universities, in fact, a lot of the universities in North Carolina have said, hey, look, you're going on spring break next week or this week. Don't bother coming back. We're going to do it all online, probably for the foreseeable future. What do you do? In fact, let's see how the tech works here. For people watching on YouTube, you're going to see something here in a moment, if I get all the buttons right pushed.
Oh.
There's a site called stayinghome.club, and it lists out a couple of columns, and this is all managed on GitHub if you wanted to watch it. But if you look at it, we'll go down to, hey, let's look at Amazon because they're big, right? I wish the headers followed, but that's okay. So this was last updated. When was theirs last updated? I changed the zoom level in it. Now it's host.
Probably need to refresh.
Yeah, because I busted it. Boy, even that didn't work. All right, we'll do that. Anyway, whatever. Let's hit it one more time here. Well, that's super weird. Of course, it could be all the streaming that we're doing too. Anyway, Amazon encouraged, recommended for Seattle, Bay Area, Lombardy region, wherever, right? Restricted travel, restricted visitors, restricted events. People are taking this seriously. And you can go through this whole list, and it's just stayinghome.club. I'm going to turn off that because it got really loud. I'm going to switch us back to full screen here. Okay, that's probably as fancy as we'll get today. But remote work has been the norm for me since roughly January of '99. So over 20 years. That doesn't mean I don't go into offices. I do. It's primarily client offices, but I haven't worked for a company to where I have been required to go into an office since January of 99. What about you, Victor?
I'm a bit younger than you in terms of how long I've been working from home, but it's been like, I don't know, 5-6 years since I'm not working in any office, at least not as mandatory.
Right. So for a lot of people, the concept of a remote work is very foreign. How can I can't do it. I don't have my PC. I don't have my free coffee. I don't have my free food. What is remote work?
I mean, most of the good things that happen to humanity are out of necessity, one way or another, right? Yeah. Like electric cars, right? I see it as out of necessity because we know that fossil fuels are running out and they're damaging and all those things. And then that necessity produced electric cars, right? Or is about to make them really affordable and all those things. And now we are in another cycle of such a necessity to do things remote. And it's quite likely that when the situation passes, we will see some of the effects of those changes due to necessity stay forever. I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
Because many companies don't want people to work remote, and now that people are working remote for weeks or months, we don't know how long this will last. But the longer it lasts, the longer people will be working remote, and then there is not necessarily going back, or at least not fully. Because once people get used to the benefits of something, you cannot take it away that easily.
The genie is out of the bottle.
Yeah. But it's not only work. Let's say, to me, schools are interesting. Yes. I hope that this will end before we even publish this video. But if it lasts for months, then probably universities are going to come up with some really creative ways how to do remote schooling. And then why would they go to university? Maybe I could study from Barcelona or university on MIT, for example, right? It's the other side of the pond.
Yeah. They've always pushed the online MBAs, at least in the US, for a long time, or for over the recent years. So it's like, oh, you work during the day and then you can take your MBA at night, or you're doing things online. But to do mass online universities, legitimate mass, not that's in the US, there's lots of problems with for-profits that do very bad things, but not all. There are some for-profits that are legit and they do the thing, but many have gotten a bad eye. But we said the genie's out of the bottle. Here's another way to think about it. I gotta look at my notes here real quick. Much like the TSA in the US is security theater, believing work only happens inside your office's four walls, I'm going to call it productivity theater. Because I've got some friends that's like, oh no, nothing happens outside the office. Work only happens between 9 to 5, except when things blow up on the weekend and you have to take care of it from home. Okay, well, if I'm having to take care of it from home, can I do it during the week too? It seems logical. But again, I'm biased. I've been doing this for basically 20 years. So I don't know any. To me, to go into an office to work in a cube or in a real four-walled office would be highly foreign to me.
Yeah, you're very politically correct now.
Okay, what was I trying to say there then?
Oh, okay. I'm not going to be explicit. But
do I need to get the button ready? Do I need to stop?
But yeah, I think that, people are, and actually in many companies working remote was accepted. It's a similar situation like university. I think that some people in most of the companies, there are some people who can sometimes work remote.
Yeah.
What haven't happened in most of the companies until now is that majority is remote, and then you can start building that remote culture. Me being remote while everybody's in the office doesn't count. That's not
right. That's not remote culture.
I would rather go to the office than do that.
Yeah.
For many different reasons. But now everybody's remote. It's amazing.
And it still works. There are
Of
companies
course
that
works.
it works. It has always worked. You look at Salesforces. Primarily, Salesforces have always been remote. Not Salesforce,
Yeah.
but whatever, right? It's those things. So there was a book that was published back in 2013. It was called Remote, Office Not Required. It was by the guys that started Basecamp. Back then they were still called 37 Signals, Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansen, the guy that created Ruby on Rails. And again, this is 2013. This was a revolutionary book in 2013, but again, 13 years into my remote experience. So it was like, oh yeah, that's cool. But I think back now, 7 years ago, could I have had two 27-inch monitors and a 32 gig laptop sitting in front of me? I probably could have, but it'd been how many thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars versus now just a couple $1,000s, or maybe
Exactly.
three. It's much more affordable. The technology curve is helping us a lot. In fact, where's my cool little, I have this thing now. Oh wait, what is that? Oh, that's the reminder. And you can see that, yes.
Are you showing me that now you got the mobile?
I have, well, I mean, this is a computer. This is not a phone,
Okay.
right? This is it's a real computer. So if I needed to run out, I could still really check email, not BlackBerry check level email. Now, I never had a BlackBerry, thankfully. I did have pagers, but I can do most everything on my phone. If I needed to log on and run a script, well, I probably got a UI that I log into and just punch buttons. I couldn't have done that with a flip phone, but I can do it with a smartphone. So those things are important. So remote doesn't necessarily just mean that remote is at home or working in a co-working space. Remote may mean literally remote, like you were saying. Just go somewhere, and wherever you are, that's where work is.
Exactly. So we have a necessity, which is coronavirus, and we have all the technology that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
It's not only home now. Basically, literally, you can go to a park bench and connect to the city Wi-Fi if you are in a city, and you can still work.
Right. And a number of our people that we work with do that on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And it makes for good life balance, but it's also one of the most evil things for work-life balance, because where does work stop and where does life begin? Because it's hard to walk away. If you're truly working from home, it's sometimes hard to split the two in half.
Yes, for good or bad. I mean, on one hand, it's hard to limit yourself to 8 hours or whatever you should be limited to. On the other hand, you have that flexibility. Oh, should I go and pick up my kid at 4 o'clock afternoon? Yes, I'm not in the office. I can do that. I can make an hour break from work and then work an hour longer or whatever my schedule is.
Yeah.
So there is that flexibility that I think people just need to get used to it. Most of the people I know, they don't really work 8 consecutive hours. It ends up being 8 hours spread over 10, 12 or something like that.
Right. But you catch that point that work 8 consecutive hours. If you go into a physical office, you're not going to work 8 consecutive hours.
No.
You might get, on a really good day, 6 hours of productive work. There's been studies made about this. I don't remember it, but realistically, you go into an office. Now, if you want to count meetings as work, for some people, meetings are work. For other people, meetings are a waste of time. I can prove that by the people that come into the sessions when I go on site and they're working on their laptops doing other things. They don't need to be there.
Exactly.
Hey, we got a comment in. And you probably can't see. Can you see comments?
I'm not watching it.
Oh, you're not watching. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I thought that you're the master of it.
I am. Yeah, I just again, this is an experiment. So if you're listening on the podcast, we'll put a link down to the episode on YouTube. But hey, I can put a comment up on the screen. So let's see if it shows up.
Oh.
Hey.
Yes.
There's Joost.
Oh, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Also, proliferation of the broadband and its speeds. Average internet speed here in Netherlands is around 200 megabits per second, and that's slow. Mine is like I'm measuring mine at 600 real. Anyway,
Yeah.
yes, that's why I mentioned the bench before. I mean, we
Yeah.
can get like 100 megabits per second on a public Wi-Fi these days, and the home is going crazy and all
Yeah.
those things.
Well, mine's not, but it's still better than what it used to be. It's
That's
still better than
because you live
56K
in a
dial-up.
rural area.
I do live in a rural area. That's true. But I do have cable, and I do have, I think I'm actually bumped up to 200 down and 20 up is what I've got right now. Something like that. So it's still, for most things, it's okay. I'm not having to bake ISOs and ship them up. So, and if I was doing that locally, that's a whole nother problem, right? But when you're thinking about remote work and you think about the pros and cons, a lot of people think that, or this is my perception, a lot of people think that we just sit around and watch TV all day.
I can tell you that I know quite a few people who sit around and watch TV and play games and watch Netflix in an office. I think that managers are underestimating our ability to do those things in the office. Kind of like, oh, if you're in the office, you cannot watch Netflix. If you're at home, you can. That's absolutely not true. Let me tell you that. I've been playing games in an office, and I've been watching videos in an office. It's doable.
Usually. Well, even if they have it firewalled off, you have your mobile device.
Exactly. That's it. The computer in my hand.
There's
course.
ways to get around it.
Exactly.
Jason, in a question, while some things are not better or worse doing remotely or in an office, some work, such as building relationships, trust, is much better done in person. What's your take on the tasks affected? Now, let's talk about this for a second in parallel with this. There are some jobs that require to be in a physical place. If I'm doing auto assembly, I can't do that from home. If I am creating my McDonald's hamburger, I have to go get it and somebody has to make it for me today.
Yes.
So there are some service related and manufacturing related things that exist. From a knowledge worker perspective, which is what we are today as a knowledge worker, where we typically be classified as a knowledge worker, I think it's important to, and I come at it from a bias. I've been doing consulting for 20 years. In and off, coming in and out of startups. But building trust is important. But I'm biased because I have to build trust within 5 minutes. I don't have time. I don't have the luxury of building trust over time. So let's maybe, since you're younger at this, how important was it having a place to go physically and do face-to-face stuff on a regular basis, daily basis?
I do think it's very important. I do notice, and I'm talking about me right now only, I do notice that the way how I collaborate with colleagues that I met is different than with colleagues that I didn't. Mm-hmm. So I do think it's important for us to meet every once in a while face to face. And you establish that relationship that is a bit harder to establish remote. I'm not saying impossible, just a bit harder, because it's not only about work, it's about having lunch together and then having dinner together and then going for drinks and stuff like that, right? So there are those social activities that are not necessarily work, but that create certain level of bonds. Same thing with customers, right? When I visit a customer, I need to establish that trust immediately, but then I also go to lunch with them, right? And maybe I go for dinner and drinks. So it is important, but not for an extended period of time. It's enough for me, I think, to once a year, if I can meet all my colleagues, and especially new ones, that's enough. After that, the relationship continues remote and I'm fine. Yeah. Just that initial contact and initial relationship is nice to be face-to-face.
Yeah, I think having face-to-face as a generally remote company, and GitLab actually has a really they publish how they do their stuff. Again, I don't have any. In fact, I think we actually do know some people that work at GitLab now. Oh, you have the red can today, not the blue can. It's a running joke. Coca-Cola, not Pepsi today.
Yeah.
We have some friends at GitLab, or I say friends, people that I know that from other places or at GitLab now, and they do 100% remote work, but they have this thing called Contribute, to where they get together. I don't remember what the cadence is, but like they canceled their March one because obviously for the COVID reasons, and I'll put a link in the show notes today. They talk about their whole remote culture, and it seems to be pretty reasonable. It's taking care of business, but when you're remote, you have to set yourself up to be successful. You got to be prepared. It's not just a laptop on your lap on the couch. That's usually not going to be that's not going to be the best long-term working situation. For an hour, sure. But for sustained amounts of time, probably not.
That's the thing. It requires certain persona for that to be successful.
Yes.
You need to be autonomous to begin with. And to be autonomous, you need to be experienced. Right? So I would say that experience is a very important factor. You cannot really easily employ juniors. Not because there's anything wrong with it, but because who's going to hold your hand and teach you all the stuff. So seniority, autonomy are very important. And also character. Some people cannot work without human contact. We are forgetting that. I can, kind of. Yeah. And maybe in our industry special, probably we have more kind of nerds than other industries, and then more people who are kind of loners than others. But still, if you're very social person, then this might not be for you.
That's what happened to my daughter. She's a freelance graphic designer, or whatever it is that she is this week. Sorry, baby, for listening. But she has bounced back and forth between co-working spaces and coffee shops and working from home. She's very social. She doesn't necessarily need to be talking to people, but she likes having people around her. Me, on the other hand, I'm fine being locked away in my room at home and come out for. My wife has learned sometimes she just pushes food under the door and I push the empty tray back. It's just how it goes. Things happen, but it's not. But that's normal for us. So, I don't know. I think remote work. But go ahead.
Coworking spaces. I've been in a couple of them, and that's fascinating. How actually there are two companies get created, kind of as if all the people in a co-working space working in many different companies are kind of forming certain level of ties, and that they're kind of cohesive group, even though they're split in different companies. And then you have another group that is your company itself, and that kind of solves the problem.
Yeah, because
we're forgetting that the major problem, I think, of remote work is in our industry is the acquisition of talent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that you can, if you're in Barcelona and there is a limited pool of people you can get to work for you. So sooner or later you need to go remote. And the real question is, are you going to open office in every single city wherever you find the talent, or are you going to say, I'm not in search of a talent, I'm in search of buddies, because buddies you can find anywhere.
Well, that's what, going back to Basecamp, right? They are a fully remote company. They tried to sort of center their people in Chicago area, but now they've got people all around the world, and they only have a handful of people in Chicago. So it's those kinds of things that it is possible to do remote. It is possible to do remote well. it is possible to be a 100% remote company. Are there upsides and downsides to that? Yes. But there are upsides and downsides to driving into an office every day.
Yep.
Because again, the mentality of work only happens between the hours of 9 to 5 in these four walls. If that is preached as truth, then when people go home at 5 o'clock, it's like, okay, something blew up. Well, I can't work on it till Monday when I get back because I left on Friday at 5. It's there's still that mentality. It's usually an older mentality. And because of my age, I caught the tail end of that, but I'm also on the leading edge of what has become the normal remote stuff, or at least I think I have.
But at the end of the day, it's all about being inclusive. I think we want to include both sexes in our work environments and in different whatever religions and stuff like that. And so we are trying to be inclusive so that we allow all different permutations of people and people preferences to work together. And that includes people who prefer to work remote and people who prefer to go to the office. I do think that every company should have an office because it shouldn't be also only remote, but it should be an option. We know the technology is there. It's just a question whether we want to include people who prefer not to drive 2 hours to work.
Yes. I'm thankful I don't have to do that. When I lived in Dallas, in a no traffic day, we did have an office. On a no traffic day, I could get there in 45 minutes. One day it took 3.5 hours to get home. I was like, nope, not doing this anymore. I'm just not going to do it. So, all right, anything else about remote work? Because we're sort of at time here. So
there's not much. You are most likely you're working remote, or you will be working remote soon because of Corona or COVID or whatever it's called, virus.
Yeah.
So this is a trial period, and then we can speak after it all passes whether it stays or not.
If you know any companies that need funding right now that is in the remote workspace, throw money at them really fast because they're getting lots of calls. I saw somebody yesterday, it was like they do basically VDI, virtual desktop. And it's like our phones are ringing off the hook. Well, you should have thought about that before now, because unfortunately that's typically not a magic button scenario or fix. All right. So if you're listening via Apple Podcast, please subscribe, leave a rating and review. Sorry for YouTubers, I'm looking off to the side. All of our contact information, including Twitter and LinkedIn, can be found at devopsparadox.com/contact. And if you'd like to be notified by email anytime a new episode is released, you can sign up at devopsparadox.com. The sign-up form is at the top of every page. And finally, there are links to the Slack workspace, the Voxer account, and how to leave a review in the show notes. But also, there will be a link off to this YouTube video where we try to do this live. Again, this is an experiment. We'll decide if we keep with it or not. Remote work, good or bad?
We'll keep it.
We'll keep it?
I'm kidding.
Well, it depends, right? Because, number one, I'm not always home where I have good gear.
That's
so
true.
it could get, and you're the same problem. We won't talk about where I've seen video from you before. At least you haven't been in the hotel lounge. That could be interesting as well. But remote work, if it's not happening to you and you're a knowledge worker, there's a good chance it will be happening. So get used to it. If you've been affected by it, man, just sort of lay low and do what you can. Take care of yourself, take care of your family. But here we go. Remote work's coming to you whether you like it or not. And hopefully you still have toilet paper where you are. We do. I go to Costco and buy toilet paper anyway, and I bought like in mid-February to stock up the normal stock up. So we're good through April. So it's not a problem for us. Of course, there's only 2 of us here. We don't have a house full of people. Anything else about remote work? I'll stop talking about Costco because I'm hungry.
No, simply we'll see at the end of the pandemic the results of it.
And again, stayinghome.club, I'll put that link down in the list too, to where you can sort of keep track of what other companies are doing, because maybe you need justification to your boss. It's like, well, 6 of our vendors are on that list and they're all required to work from home now. Why can't we? A little bit of pressure. All right. Thanks again for listening to episode number 49 of DevOps.